Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Hey everybody, this is Michael J. Maher with another episode of Referrals Podcast, and we're also broadcasting live in the Generosity Generation group as a special edition, a special sneak preview of our Referrals Podcast episode. And I will tell you, we have a treat today. I will tell you, wouldn't you like to know what to say in every situation? Like, what if you knew exactly what to say to always get what you want? What if you knew what to say to get under promise, over deliver with your sellers, your buyers, your referral sources, whatever it may be? I will tell you, here's the other thing. Like, what could you learn from somebody who did over 5,500 transactions, who's been in the business for, over 40 years, and who does 100 transactions every single year? I mean, we're going to learn a ton from our guest today, Alexis Bolin. But before I bring her on, I've got to do a shout out. I have a special shout out here from a iTunes reviewer. So on iTunes, it says, "This is the best interactive community online. Michael J. Maher and his team generate with lots of O's, much energy and enthusiasm on his podcast and webinars. You cannot help but fill up with inspiration. If you are looking for a level 10 resource, tune in to Referrals Podcast at referralspodcast.com. Thank you so much. We also have a big announcement. We just crossed 100,000 downloads on Referrals Pod, 100,000 downloads. Now, I have to thank you for that. That's not me downloading. I only downloaded 57,000 of those, but I'm just kidding. I can only download one a day, right? So I want you to know, I want to thank you listeners and viewers for making us a top 100 podcast. You guys made it happen. You guys want referrals. You want to be more referable, and you came to the right place to do it, and you are supporting us with listening and viewing. And I just want to say thank you so much. So, here's her intro. And I just want you to know, this is her intro. So this is Alexis's intro. If I had to read this, we wouldn't have a show. She has accomplished so much in just her very youthful life. It is just crazy. But I want you to know something about Alexis so I met Alexis Bolin, due to a guy by the name of Howard Brinton. You guys have heard his name quite a bit on this podcast. And I had the opportunity to take my team to a buyer university that Alexis was teaching. And it was off the charts, right? And by the way, this lady's been number one, like, for 40 years. I mean, seriously, 5,500 transactions. It just, did we lose her? All right, Alexis, come back. So I'm hoping that Alexis will sign back in here in a second. I don't know if she felt like her internet was off. See, that's what I get, right? Oh, there we go. See how that works?
All of a sudden I disappeared. I'm sorry.
That's the glory of technology. It's all good. You know what? We're still live on Facebook, and I haven't even gotten done with your wonderful intro. It's like, that's the beauty. So I will tell you that went to Buyer University. All four of my agents and myself learned a ton. And then I had the opportunity to teach with this lady. And I will tell you, you talk about referability being character, competence, and communication. She's mastered character, high integrity. In fact, when I've had some struggles in my life that were very private, I disclosed these to Alexis. And what was amazing is I was looking for her advice, but what I got was a listening ear more than I got advice, which I really appreciated at the time. And, you talk about character, competence, communication. So character, high integrity, greatest questioner ever. And then you talk about competence. There's nobody that knows her tools of the trade and real estate better than her. 5,500 transactions worth. And then communication. And this is the weakness of 99% of all salespeople, not just realtors and lenders and financial planners, but all 99%, the weakness is communication. That's why I wrote a book on communication. Well, she's known as the queen of scripts. She's known, and what are scripts? Scripts are simply just better words to get what you want. That's all a script is, you know? So I think that the bottom line here is that she is perhaps the most referable person we've ever had on the Referrals podcast. And I could go on and on about how wonderful she is, but I want you to hear her wisdom. So without further ado, Alexis Bolin, welcome to the Referrals podcast.
Well, Michael, I'm thrilled to death that you called me and asked me if I would be able to join you. I just feel very honored to be with you and to share whatever I can with your guests. And by the way, those who are listening, when I talked with Michael, it just wasn't all rosy. I just want to tell you that we had to break him in, but
yes,
he's a quick learner.
Yes, I was awful. Just to
No, he wasn't.
Yes, I was. I mean, at some points I was awful. So
No, you weren't.
well, my heart was in the right place. And I had, here's the thing. If you're awful and everybody else is phenomenal, you don't look so awful, so here's what I learned. Shut up and let them teach. Let Alexis and Todd and Rob and Sean and,
Buddy.
and, everybody teach, right? So the Crockett's, there was a lot of wisdom in that room. I was intimidated from the get-go. And then, you know what, you start to learn a little bit. So, I think it's one of those where I really want to talk about, like, I want to do some role play during this podcast. And I want to go through like several scenarios, not just listings, not just with sellers, but really just like buyers with, referral sources, how you look at your clients like perennials instead of annuals. You are the original wealthy gardener, I think. It's a great book by John Saforic, by the way. So I think let's just start with the first thing is, when you're going to a listing appointment, what's your mindset when you go on this listing presentation? Are you going on a listing presentation, or are you going like on a listing consultation, or you just look at it as a listing appointment?
So, Michael, I don't do a listing presentation.
Okay.
I don't go there to present anything. So my purpose in being there is to ask enough questions to see what I can do to help the seller accomplish their goal. So I had a seller call probably a month ago, and he said, I'm interviewing agents, and I'd like for you to come and meet with us, and I'd like to interview you too. And I said to him, oh, well, I'll be glad to come and talk with you, but I don't interview very well. And he laughed, and I said, I've never interviewed for a job in my entire life, and I'm 75, and I just don't think I can start now. And I didn't even know the guy. And so he laughed, and I said, so how about this? How about let me come take a look at your house, ask you a few questions. Let's talk about what you're trying to accomplish here. And if I can help you, I'll tell you so, and I'll be glad to help you. And if not, I'll let you know that too. And maybe you don't want me to help you, and you can tell me that too. Would that be okay? And he goes, oh, this is great. So I went on the appointment. We listed the house.
Okay. So there's like 3 nuggets or pearls in just what you just did and said, right? One is I talk a lot about referability and character, competence, and communication under character, being of good character leads to comfort, right? You are comfortable with yourself. You're very comfortable with yourself. You're comfortable whether you got that listing or not. And one of the things that you did right there is that you lowered his barriers by answering differently than anybody else that probably was talking. So you instantly differentiated yourself by going, you know what, I don't interview very well, which is kind of a self-degradation / humble humility, but it's also the truth, right? It might be the truth. I mean,
no, it is.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, but you went into this strategy that I will tell you I've used to get developments where I listed entire neighborhoods where instead of being the person who's being interviewed, you interview the interviewer, right? And you and I are very similar in that we feel far more comfortable asking questions than maybe we do answering questions. We're comfortable with both, but we're in our sweet spot when we're asking questions. So so I love that you kind of disarmed and went into the interview by interviewing the interviewer, and then your approach just got you the appointment from a different aspect, and then you went on the appointment and did what you did. What do you take to the appointment when you go? Do you take anything with you at all?
Oh yes, I have everything I need. Anything I need to visually show them to help answer a question for them, I have with me. Whether or not I drag it out and show it to them is another ballgame.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I want to do, Michael, is to see if I can get them to relax and laugh with me.
Mm.
So I did that on the phone call. And so that kind of set the mindset for who I am. And so I'm not all about stiff and starchy. I like to have fun with what I do. And so, that just kind of loosened the seller up some. So I want to go there and look at the house. And then when I sit down at the table with them, I'm not pulling out a market analysis. I'm not pulling out the book that shows what I do to market their house. I'm pulling out a piece of paper and a pen. And I'm asking questions. So if you were the seller, I'd say, so Michael, what's causing you to think you need to sell your house today? And I'd wait for the answer. Based on your answer, I'm going to ask another question. So I understand you're just deciding to retire and you want to move back up north with the grandkids. So when do you need to be there? And so forth. And then I may ask, have you ever considered what you will do if the house doesn't sell? And so forth. So I just ask questions.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Then when I get, during the questioning process, then I want to say, now, is there anything else you think that's important that I need to know I didn't ask you? Or do you want to ask me something that you forgot about that you can now maybe pull from the back of your memory and ask what you want to ask? And the most important thing I want to ask is, what are you looking for in an agent and what's going to make the difference? What's going to make the difference? Are you just looking for the agent who's going to agree that you want $1.6 million for your $300,000 house? Are you looking for the agent who agrees that they're only going to charge you X percent minus 10 or something? Or are you looking for the agent who really and truly has your best interest at heart, who's willing to work as hard as they can to get you the best price in the best possible time? And so that's what I'd like to know. What are you looking for? Because I'm not sure whether I'm going to fit into that.
Yeah. So are you asking to eliminate? Are you asking to see if you want the business? Or are you asking to get the business? Are you asking those questions to kind of rule them out? Or are you asking those questions to, So you're So
I want to know where they stand, because if they've got a price in mind, and mind you, I haven't even talked price yet.
Right.
If they have a price in mind that's going to be higher than what the market shows, I'm really interested in whether or not they're interested in just having a sign in their front yard, press hard for a copy, sign my listing, or whether or not they're open to look at what the real market is. 99% of the time they giggle when I say, if you're looking for an agent, that you want $1.6 million for your $300,000 house and they're willing to list it, they just giggle.
Yeah.
And so I want to get them also in that mindset that there are agents who do that.
That's right.
And so that won't be me.
Yeah.
And I think they know that when I ask that question. So I've already basically said to them, I'm not here to get your listing.
Yeah.
Without actually saying it, because you're the listener. It comes across that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I want to see what they're looking for, because sellers go to seller school somewhere, Michael. There's a class out there, and I've never found it. And they
Yeah.
all say the same thing, just like my mom never met your mom, and my mom always said I had to have clean underwear in case I get hit by a bus, and I got to go to the hospital. And we all know now that we're adults that they're going to cut it off you anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's clean or not. And so the sellers all say the same thing. I'm in no hurry. I'm not going to give it away.
Mm-hmm.
I have plenty of time. I had a 90-year-old guy tell me that. He tells me, Mr. Brown, says, I'm in no hurry, Alexis. I have plenty of time. I about passed out.
He was 90.
He was 90. I looked across the table and I said to him, now, Mr. Brown, can I be honest with you? And he goes, oh, absolutely. My friend said you would be. And this was a referral. And so I said to him, look, let's be honest with each other. You're 90 years old, Mr. Brown. Time is not your friend. You buy green bananas. Don't tell me you have time.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Packed up.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of agents are probably shrinking like violets right now, Michael. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I took a chance, and he laughed.
Yeah.
Because that's the truth. He's 90. He don't have any time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Maybe he's got 10 more years if God is good.
Yeah.
But, tell me you got time. Tell me you got time when you're 30.
That reminds me of I worked with a guy who was who I have this definition of optimism, and the definition of optimism is this 70-year-old guy I worked with who bought a house and got a 30-year mortgage. And it's like that's my definition of optimism. He goes, no, I'm going to be there to pay it off. I'm going to be there to pay it off. I might go through another wife, but I'm going to pay this house off. That's exactly what he said. So, and I will tell you, one of the things that you did right in the beginning is that, when this person called and said, we're interviewing 16 agents and we're going to go through this process, and you go, well, I don't interview very well. If they chuckle and laugh a little bit, then that's actually your first filter. If they don't laugh, it's probably not going to be a great relationship throughout the process, but if they'll actually laugh a little, it's like, all right, they're going to be human about this, and I think we have to watch using humor in our approach, because sometimes it, falls on deaf ears, if you will. But I think having these little self-deprecating humor is usually going to be your best method, right? I don't interview well, or, oh, you know what, that, whatever it is, I think the bottom line is that I love that. And going into this with asking questions and really paring down to their wants and needs, their motivations, and, where the pricing. And a great question that you kind of asked was, what are the characteristics of a realtor that you're looking for? And on Referrals podcast, we have everybody from solopreneurs to realtors, lenders, financial planners, insurance agents, all the way up to CMO, chief marketing officers of companies. And I want to reiterate the point here is that when somebody's making a decision for your business, one of the best things you can do is isolate what they're going to use to make that decision. Right. So in Alexis's case, she's like, all right, what are you looking for in a realtor? Are you looking for this, or this? And Alexis, I want to jump into something I've heard you say before that I don't want to miss out on. And I'm going to butcher it, but you clean it up for me. And it's basically, I would rather tell you the truth and lose your business than lie to you and buy your business. And I love, instead of you saying, Mr. Seller, have you ever heard of somebody buying your listing, and talking about buying? You have a very good way of saying that. Do you know what I'm talking about there? Because I've heard you say this a few times, and maybe it was more in the flow of the conversation, but it's basically, you're going to tell them the truth, and not lie to them. Right.
Well, my personality, Michael, so I can't repeat the same thing twice exactly the same way because it's not memorized.
Yeah.
And so I will generally say, one of the differences you're going to find in me that you probably won't find in most realtors is that I don't have to have a listing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not here to get a listing. I'm here to help you accomplish your goal. Now, there are a lot of realtors that'll take a listing at any price you want them to put on it and charge the lowest fee on the planet. And if that's what you're looking for, that's fine. It's okay with me. You see, at my age, and I have been like this even when I was probably 30, even when I had to have a job, I never had to have a job. So I'm probably the only agent you're going to talk to that can afford to tell you the truth, because big Social Security checks coming in every single month, and I don't really have to have a job. I work because I want to help people. And if you want somebody that wants to help you accomplish your goal of selling this house for the best price we can get, then I'm your person. If you're looking to someone to just take a listing, I will tell you at my age, I want to be able to outlive the listing. And so if you overprice the house, it's not going to sell. So I want you to think about this. You can price it to sit or you can price it to sell, and God's going to grant you whichever you pick. But it's all about the pricing. 95% of what we're going to do today is pricing this house, positioning it in the marketplace so that it sells. When buyers come to look at your house, I want them to be afraid to back out of the driveway for fear another agent's going to come along right behind them with a buyer and buy it out from under them. And that's the best marketing plan you can ever have. All this business about where am I going to advertise it, I'm praying I never have to advertise it. I'm praying that you do the best thing you can do tonight, which is price your house to sell, position it with your staging and the condition of the house, and then I'm praying I never have to put a sign up. So if that works for you, let's do the paperwork, because I don't need a sign to sell the house. I need the house to be in top condition, and I need you to price correctly with the market, because we can sell the worst looking house in town in the worst neighborhood in town if it's priced right. But I can't sell the nicest home in the best neighborhood in town if you price it wrong. Because price is king, and that's what everybody's looking at. And even in the hot market we've got right now, they are still bypassing homes that are priced incorrectly. And I'm getting multiple offers on the homes that are priced correctly. So you decide where you want to be, with multiple offers to buy your house or with no offers.
I love that. And you know, it's we've used the comparison before of, you know, who gets a better price, Walmart or the auction, right? And people have to think about that. Like when you go to Walmart, you go and the candy bar is $3. You go to the, let's even talk about the red wagon, right? The red wagon is $100. People go to the register and they pay $100 and they walk out. But if you go to an auction, where does the auctioneer start? The auctioneer starts at, hey, who'll give $1 for this little red wagon? Well, where does it end up? You know, that thing ends up at 150 or 180 or 200 because you've got 10 people who want the wagon. And, you know, it's almost a better idea to start low than it is to start high, because the market will bid it up, whereas the market will never bid it down because they think, well, the seller wants too much. I love your language around that and getting them to price it right. I mean, I'm guessing you still have the people who should be at 300 and their neighbor sold at 320, but theirs isn't worth 320, right? So how do you handle that where they just got a postcard from your competitor that said your neighbor's house sold at 320 in 4 days, right? And they're waving it at you and going, they got 320. My house is better, right? They always say better than theirs. So how do you handle that, right?
So I say to them, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see that you are normal. Because our parents do such a wonderful job of teaching us that whatever we have is better than somebody else's.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be proud of who we are, our heritage, who our parents are, whatever the educational level they have, and whatever status we may have in the community. And so I call that my daddy can beat up your daddy. And fortunate part about that is that when the appraiser comes along, we've got to do something to justify the price. So let's take a look at what that house had, and let's look at what you've got. Because for all I know, yours may be worth $350 compared to that house.
There you go.
It could be worth $290 compared to that house. So let's you and I look at the amenities. Oh, they have a screened-in swimming pool. We don't have one. That's probably $30,000 in value right there.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I see they have granite countertops, and you've only got them in the bathrooms, not the kitchen. Well, that's going to make a difference, wouldn't you think so? What do you think that's worth? And I go through and I ask them questions. So how do you think that compares? Well, I see they've got hardwood floors in most of the living area, and you have carpet. Do you think there's a difference in value between the hardwood and the carpet? And I let them talk. By the time we get through, I say, now based on that, where do you think we should position your house if the appraiser's going to use your next door neighbors as a comp? Do you think we're better? Do you think we're lower? Do you think we're way lower? Where do you think we ought to be positioned?
I will tell you the genius in Alexis is the art of questioning. It's never an answer. It's always a question. I love how it's always like you're having them price their own house essentially. And it's just like you're just like, okay, all right, so let's look at it apples to apples, and it's never apples to apples. It's more like apples to oranges, but it's like, let's compare the two and see where it's at. And you just step through it. And by the end of it, if they're logical, which not every seller is, they'll get it and they'll go, you know what? We don't have the granite. We don't have the basement. So I'm thinking maybe, 290 is kind of what I would do head to head, but can we go out at 300, And how do you react to a statement like that when they just throw out an answer that really has very little evidence, but might be in alignment with what you think?
Well, anytime I'm chatting with the seller, if and when we get to the point that they're going to look at comps with me.
Yeah.
All right. So, I got to be comfortable with them. They've got to be comfortable with me. And sometimes, Michael, you know my personality, so all of you are just going to scrimmage and shrivel up at this one, but, do whatever you want to do. Sometimes I'll just say to a seller, working together is the most important thing we can do here in this sale outside of pricing correctly and getting the condition right. And so I have to know I can trust you, and I have to feel you can trust me. So I'm going to have to ask you, how do you feel about me at this point in time? Do you think you can trust me?
Okay.
And I let them answer.
We need to snippet this out because that is the centerpiece of all sales. I mean, you got to just, what you're doing is instead of building trust, what you've done, right? Either reputationally or through the referral or through what you've said before this, but you're just like, at some point you go, trust is the most important. Do you trust me? If they trust you, then you know what, you probably are going to be able to lay out the path to get the business. If they 100%. Don't, then nothing else matters.
Right.
So I absolutely love that you just simply bring, and the way you do it is so, it's gorgeous. It's not smooth because I don't want to, it's natural is what it is. You're not emotional about it. You're like, listen, we got to work together. Trust is a centerpiece of working together. Do you trust me?
Yes. And then sometimes I just get a grin out of them and they say to me, well, do you trust me?
No, you're a seller, right? I mean, it's like, it's like, no.
And if I don't, I say, well, I'm still trying to decide that. or I may, when they say, do you trust me? And I say, well, is there something that you didn't share with me that would cause me not to?
There you go.
So
there you go.
You notice I'm never, ever really giving positive yes or no answers.
Yeah.
I'm always open-ended.
Yeah.
On almost everything.
Yeah.
I'm open-ended.
Yeah.
The real beauty when you go and talk with people about listing their home is when they pick the price, they own it, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going in with your market analysis and saying, according to my market analysis, and I've adjusted for this and that and the other thing, your house should be worth $359,000.
Yeah.
Then you put it on the market for $359,000. It isn't selling for $359,000. You own that number.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do that. I never do that.
Yeah.
Where do you think we stand? We have to justify your asking price. First to the agent working with the buyer, secondly to the buyer. If the buyer likes it, they make an offer, we come to terms, we have to justify it to the appraiser.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't all. Nowadays, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's some person sitting somewhere, I'll pick Des Moines, Iowa, and in an ivory tower, and that's called the underwriter. And that underwriter has a protractor. And they plunk that down on the internet and they draw a circle around where you live. And based on what shows up in that circle, whether they're higher priced houses or lower priced houses, the underwriter weighs in on their opinion of whether the appraiser was right.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to sell your price to the agent, the buyer, to the appraiser and the underwriter, that's 4 people we have to convince, pick me 3 comps out of what I brought that we can use to justify it. Because my job is to defend your position. That's my job. It's always to defend your position. So it's like football. Each team gets a goalpost to defend. If they can't defend the goalpost, the other party wins. And so my job is to always defend your position on any position we have to take, but I need to back it up with logic, because I can promise you in all the sales I've done, there's never been a line on the appraisal for emotional value.
Right.
And so I just let them look. At that point, you shut up and you let them pick something. And your next question is, okay, so tell me why you think that should be a good comp. Let them talk. Now, for those agents who want to get in and get out in a half an hour, 45 minutes, you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
You're better off to take time up front. I tell them to plan to be with me 2 hours. If we can get done quicker, we'll get done quicker.
Yeah.
But I'm going to allot that time. And I would say to you, if I was making an appointment, Michael, allot me 2 hours of time, because it's probably going to take that long for me to answer all your questions and for us to determine how to position your house in the marketplace and to get the paperwork done. Will that work for you? And oh, by the way, if you'll have ready an extra key for me, a copy of your survey, your last title policy, your loan information, and all the improvements you've done to the house since you've owned it, it'll make it a little bit quicker filling out the paperwork. So could you do that for me?
So, Alexis, I took a page of notes on the last 10 minutes of what you just said. I'm going to start kind of at maybe the end, and that's the homeowner homework. I will tell you, this is one of the jewels of professional sales in general, is give the potential client 2 or 3 pieces of homework. If they have done those things, then you probably have the business. For us, it was always, we had them fill out the seller's disclosure and make 2 copies of their key. If I went to the appointment and I saw the seller's disclosure filled out and 2 copies of the key on top of it, I knew I was probably in pretty good shape, because the seller's disclosure is, it's filled out, it's ready to go. And like you were saying, copy of the appraisal, copy of the title, whatever it may be. And if they've done that, you're sitting there and it's right there, because they took your direction already, that they trust you. They're taking action on. And then the 2 hours is brilliant. I love that, because then when you get out of there in 90 minutes, they feel great. The ones that are awful is when somebody says it's an hour appointment and they're walking out of there 90 minutes later and it's 30 minutes late. It's just like that has a cast of unprofessionalism around it, Whereas if you do 2 hours and you get out in 90 minutes, then it's like super professional, under promise, over deliver. And I love that. And here's the thing that I really want to point out about Alexis is, Alexis, you're on the DISC, you're a high D, correct?
No.
So you're not a high D?
No.
What are you?
I'm equal in all four.
Okay, so you're equal in all four. So you're not dominant in any of those.
No, I'm able to flow in and out. I mean, you see the D when you need it.
Yeah.
You see
So
the
you're going to treat me the way I am, right? So let me ask you a question real quick. So I'm going to give you 4 options, and out of the following 4 options, I want you to choose only one. And I want you to choose the one that your best friend, Michael, your spouse, or your significant other would use to describe you. So it's not necessarily you describing yourself, but it's like Michael would say this, or
which one of them?
Yeah. So number one, number 1 is straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is social and outgoing.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is steady and dependable. And number 4 is cautious and perfectly accurate.
Right.
So what would Michael say is your number 1 if he could only pick one?
I don't think he would pick one.
You don't think so? You don't think he would pick any of those?
Because they all equally apply. So Michael, I sit down during the Christmas holidays if I have time, if not the first week of January, and I write out all the birthday cards and anniversary cards we have to send to family. And I take a pencil and I put in where the stamp goes, the date in which I want them mailed.
Mm.
So
for the whole year?
For the whole year.
Yeah.
So what do you think that is? A C.
Yeah, that definitely has a lot of, but it could also be a D, right? Because the D wants to save time.
So wait a minute, how many Ds do that? They delegate it.
Well, maybe,
Yeah.
right? But you're doing it to save, you could be doing it to save time, right? You got to do it, so you're doing it all at once.
I'm doing it so that I don't miss your birthday.
Yeah.
If you're my brother, I don't want to miss your birthday.
Right.
Okay, so I'm doing it so that I don't miss your birthday.
Yeah.
That's not a D.
Yeah.
That's getting into my S.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
I'm the person who's going to call and ask you how you're doing.
Yeah.
Remember you said you talked to me about some confidential things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I did that because I thought you were a D. I'm kidding. I'm just.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a little of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when the Stars took their DISC,
Yeah.
Amy announced, because they all thought I was a flaming D.
Mm-hmm.
And so Amy announced that, and they're like, no, that's wrong. It can't be right. And Amy's going like, no, it is. So I'm a little of all of that. When I am, all right, so that's role and identity, Michael.
Yeah.
So when I am in my role, like I am right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we have something that we want to share and teach somebody.
Yeah.
That takes me into my D and I position.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
My true identity is not really that.
Yeah.
My true identity is really all of that.
Yeah.
But I can show you, I promise you the pit bull is there.
Yeah.
So if the D needs to come out really strong, you'll see the D. If the I needs to come out really strong, you'll see the I. So I don't know how to answer that, and I didn't want to take up a lot of time on it.
No, I know. I mean, but here's the brilliance of it. Here's what I love is every salesperson probably wants to do things as fast as they can, but you scheduled a 2-hour appointment for the appointment. And I love that. But here's the other thing is that I really want to reinforce that what you understand at a mastery level is that we handle the process and the clients handle the decisions. What you are so masterful at is helping them make the decisions quickly. You don't get off on these tangents that are you want a decision. Like, what do you think the price should be? You ask these questions for them to make the decision instead of you saying, I think it should be at $359, $950, and instead it's this Socratic method of asking questions, which leads to another point that I want to make, which is which is, you could be dominant because you're extremely strong personality. You are a strong personality, right? But something that you have learned and that you are masterful at is that you understand that the person who talks the most dominates the conversation, but the person who asks the most questions controls the conversation, and you choose control over dominance.
Correct.
And that is such, if this is the podcast that everybody should listen to out of the 150 episodes that we've done, because if they can understand this stuff at a basic level and work towards your mastery, they will be the best salesperson in the history of the world, because you boiled it down to exactly where we should be. And I do want to ask you about, you have a comment on that, but I do want to ask you about appraisals in the current market. So
the comment I was going to make, Michael, is that we need to get out of the role or the mindset, maybe that's the correct word, that we're a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. Mm-hmm. We should be real estate consultants.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody says to me, how much is your commission? And I say, you're going to love this one, 0.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, what do you mean? And I say, well, maybe other real estate companies charge a commission. I charge a professional fee, like your accountant or any other services that you receive, because I'm a professional and I'm going to provide you a professional service. I see commission as something you pay Sotheby's when they sell your artwork.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not interested in commission.
Yeah.
I have a professional fee, and when we're able to deliver a buyer ready, willing, and able at the price that you can live with, then you're going to pay me for my professionalism. Mm-hmm. And so it's called a professional fee.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love that.
And so already they're like smiling.
Yeah.
Because they hate paying salespeople. They don't like paying commissions. And so if you will get that out of your mind, take it off your listing agreement, put the word in professional fee if you can, because that's what mine says. It doesn't say commission, it says professional fee. And so I had a guy call on the phone a few years back, kind of a crusty old dude. Now, remembering my age when I say it means he's older than me. And so he calls on the phone. He's got a waterfront house to sell. And so on the phone, he said, I want to make an appointment with you, talk about selling my house. And I said, fine, can I ask a few questions? So I want you to know that I always ask permission to ask. He said, yes, go ahead. So I get the address, his name, all the pertinent things that I need. And then I say, all right, so what day are you thinking about? And so we pick out a time, and he goes, well, I have something I want to ask you before we set that day and time. And I said, what is it? He said, how much are you going to charge me? And so I said, I don't know. I haven't seen your house yet. I charge more if it's ugly.
Yeah.
And he started to laugh. And I said, so let's talk about the professional fee when I get there, because if it's ugly, it's going to be higher. If it's a really nice house, it's probably not going to be that high.
Yeah.
And he went, okay. And so I get there. We do the Gilligan Island tour. We're back at the table. We're asking questions. He folds his hands, leans across the table at me on the dining room table. And he says to me, what makes you different than Joan? So he had talked to a realtor named Joan. So I folded my hands and I looked back across the table at him and I said, darned if I know.
Mm-hmm.
And he started to laugh. And I said to him, do you mind if I ask you a question? He goes, no, go right ahead. I said, well, since you've talked to Joan and you've now talked to me, maybe you can tell me what makes me different than Joan, because I don't know anything about Joan. Joan has all the same tools that I have available, so I don't have anything magical. My crystal ball's in the shop. My magic wand is broken. And so I don't know what makes me different. I don't know why Joan can't sell 100 houses a year. I don't know why Joan's never been #1 in the nation 3 different times for their franchise in sales with the same things I've got to work with. And then I shut up, and he looked across the table, and he leaned back. He unfolded his hands. He got a smile on his face, and he says, girl, you got spunk. I like you. And I said, well, if you don't have any more questions, would you like us to proceed with the paperwork? He said, let's do it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. That was
So
awesome.
most agents freeze up when you get a question like that.
Yeah. Or jump into the differences.
Correct.
I love that you didn't, right? You're like, I don't know.
Well,
Like
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I don't really know you,
Yeah.
I don't know what you do. I don't even know how many sales you've done.
Yeah.
I have no clue what you just told that seller, and it's irrelevant. As
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned, totally irrelevant what the other guy said.
Yeah, it is irrelevant.
Yes.
Because where does the difference have to exist? It has to exist in the potential client's head. So you went right back to it, like, what do you see as the differences? Which is the more important question and actually leads to the decision faster, you know? And so let's talk discount, right? Which, by the way, you using the word professional fees is it just totally reminded me of this, right? And that is, you know, if somebody asks you to reduce your commission, or they ask you for a discount, is there something you say to that?
You want to be the seller?
I'll be the seller. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
So, you know, this was great. I appreciate you coming across. And I do want you to know that what you're asking for here, as far as on the paperwork, is higher than what Joan said. Would you do it for what Joan said, which is X minus 1% from this number?
So are you asking me if I'll take less?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay. So what would cause you to want to ask that question, Michael?
Actually, it was Joan's idea. Joan, the other agent that came in, said that she was going to do it for this lower number. So I thought, well, if she'll do it for the lower number, maybe you'll do it for the lower number, especially since we're going with you.
Okay. So, and I can see why she may do that. So when you first started, and I don't know where she is in the real estate business. So when you started your job, did you get a lesser pay than after you had some advanced years and more experience?
No, as I got better, I got more. Yeah.
Okay. So you started out with less money when you didn't know as much. And then when you got to be the expert, then you were kind of at the top of your pay scale. Is that right?
Hopefully not at the top of my pay scale, but definitely higher, right? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now
I got raises and I had more knowledge and solved problems faster. Yeah.
all right. So who would you be most comfortable working with? The person who doesn't have as much knowledge, or as with the person who's more knowledgeable?
Well, definitely the person who has more knowledge.
So then can we agree that that person's going to make a little more money?
Yes, but I was hoping that they would take the same amount of money.
Would you do that on your job if the boss asked you to do so?
If the boss asked, no, I would not take less money if the boss asked me to. So
okay. So you can see where I stand on that with my experience and how long I've been in the business. So is there any other question that you've got for me, Michael?
No, that was good. So that was good. That was good. So
you've got to answer emotional questions, because that's emotional.
Yeah.
With logical.
Yeah. So
I want to put it back to you. Would you work for less when you're at the point you are in your career?
Yeah.
And in locally, we've got an attorney here named Fred Levin, who's like one of the top trial lawyers in the nation and listed and done in Bradstreet and everything. So I use that a little bit. And I always say to them, when you go to pick a lawyer, or you want to pick one that's going to win the case, you're going to pick somebody that just got out of law school, or maybe they've been in the business 2 or 3 years. You see, if I wanted to win a big high profile case, I'd go to Fred Levin. And I bet you Fred Levin doesn't discount his fees. In fact, I bet you he's 5 times higher than any other lawyer in town.
I love that.
I want to win. So what you're looking at is the Fred of real estate.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm not going to charge you 5 times what anybody else charges. I'm just going to charge our normal professional fee. So I'm not adding to that. But I tell you what, though, I bet you there's a new agent at the office that would like some experience at that price. If you'd like me to send them out, I can do that too.
There you go. And I will tell you that once again, you brought up what masters do. And anytime you can use an analogy or metaphor using a lawyer or doctor, it behooves you in your business, because people do associate a lot of intelligence and a lot of experience with lawyers and doctors. So anytime you use an analogy or you use a metaphor, if you can tie it to like when you go to a doctor's office, you fill out the paperwork, you sit there and you wait, and then and this is a great way to explain your team, maybe, is you fill out the paperwork, and then a nurse sees you and does some weighs you and checks on you. And then the doctor comes in for 15, 20 minutes, diagnoses, and then you move on, right? So I love that you're using lawyer plus somebody that's so prevalent in the market. And so I'm gonna have you reverse roles. I'm gonna have you be the seller, and you ask me ask me to reduce my commission, right? So hey Alexis, any other questions while we're filling out the paperwork before we're finished here?
Well, yes, Michael, I was hoping that your fee would be a little less than it was. So would you be willing to take 1% off of the fee if we agree to list the house with you tonight? Because I'm thinking that there's a couple other agents out there that might do it for that.
Let me understand this correctly. You want me to take a discount? Is that right?
Well, yeah, I guess we could call it a discount. I just say take a little off the fee.
Yeah. So how many of the letter F is in the word discount?
I don't think there is any.
So you would agree with me that there's no F in discount? Right. You would agree? So there's no F in discount?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just agree with you that there's no F in discount. So I just want you to know up front right now that there's no F in discount, but there is an F in fee. And I just want you to know that there's no F in discount. So, there's no.
You better not do that where I am.
But I will tell you what made me think of that is when you started referring to the commission as a fee, right? There's no F in discount. There's no F in commission. But there is an effing fee, and you know what? I'm effing worth it. So guess what? We're gonna charge you an effing fee. So I love it. I love you, Alexis. We are at the end of our time, and I'll tell you.
So much more I wanted to share.
I know. It's just like here's what we got to do. I got to bring you back. Right?
For one thing, real quick about referrals.
Oh, 100. Yeah, this is a referrals podcast. You can say anything you want about referrals.
So you kind of mentioned it in the beginning.
Yeah.
So in order to have referrals, which I sit here and my phone rings, folks. I'm not out beating on doors. I knocked on 50 doors a day when I was new in real estate. Right. My phone just rings off the wall and we do business. So I have a mindset that if I'm prospecting, I'm planting annuals. If I take good care of those clients that I have now, that I've worked with previously, and I do what I should do to keep in touch with them and take care of them, I have perennial plants in my garden. So every year, if I just water them a little bit and give them a little fertilizer, I never have to plant them again. They're going to come right back up, and they're going to grow, and they're going to look pretty. So 42 years in business, I have worked so hard on fertilizing and watering the flowers I already have. And that includes agents that I meet everywhere I go, that I want to water and fertilize these until I have nothing but perennials growing in my garden. I want you to think about it that way, because if you'll just take care of the flowers you already have, then you can find a few new to add to it, but you'll always have flowers.
That is a beautiful way to look at it. And it does remind me of The Wealthy Gardener. It's a book by John Saforic. And Alexis, you are the wealthy gardener. You are you are planting perennials, that's for sure. And not, I mean, yeah, at the beginning they are annuals, but you've turned them into perennials. And these, I mean, you're getting referrals all the time. I refer you, and you have to be Pensacola, Florida's most preferred real estate agent. You have to be. I can't even imagine it being any other way. And
Michael, I got 5 referrals this week, and I just, our friend Chip Collins, while we're sitting on this call, is a text message to call. They have a referral, and so it happens. We sell a lot of real estate that way.
That's right. That's right. 80 to 90% of the business is done that way. 100 transactions a year, 5,500 transactions, probably 4,500 referrals in that time. It's just off the charts. And that's why I've been wanting to get you on Referrals podcast for a long time. And we're going to bring you on again. We're going to bring, period. Luckily it's my decision. So we're gonna bring you on again and
rematch, right?
And that's right. No, you know what? We already did that, right? We already did the Alexis versus Michael thing way back when, and I'm done. You win. I'm far more into collaboration than I am competition right now. It's all about, let's see how we can, the world needs more collaboration right now than it does competition. So.
Michael, one of the most difficult things we face today is working with the other agent. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to be adversarial. I don't want to do that. Yeah. I want to collaborate. We're all in this together, and we need to act like ladies and gentlemen. We don't need to posture with each other, because I definitely can play king of the hill with anybody in the world, but I don't want to do that. So I want you to, when you get an offer in and you get it two-sided, I want you to write a thank you note, send them a Starbucks card or, $10 for lunch somewhere in town. Thank them right then and there. Tell them you're looking forward to a smooth transaction. They'll be so much nicer to you. And I want you to write a thank you note and maybe, again, a little card or something to everybody in the transaction. People in the title business, they take the heat of this stuff. Anybody you work with, the surveyor, anybody, you need to be writing notes. And if you can't write the note, then darn, pick up the phone. Don't send them a text message. That's so impersonal. Pick up the phone and say, hey, Michael, I know you're very busy, but I'll tell you what, I sure appreciate you jumping out there and getting that survey done for me quickly. You just don't know how thrilled I am that you're part of the team that I refer to people. And that just builds them up. The next time I call and I forgot to order the survey and it's pouring rain, Michael's going to be out there with an umbrella doing my survey.
I want to go like this. Like that's, Alexis, we're 60 some minutes in, and you drop the mic moment on us at the very end. It's like, I love the idea of writing handwritten notes to all the parts of the aspects of the transaction, the inspector, the appraiser, if you know them, and the other agent and all parties. I mean, that's so in line and right in line with everything we do at the Generosity Generation and within the 7L system. And I will tell you, like I said, Alexis, we got to bring you back. I don't know if we'll ever get to the extent of your wisdom, but you've got so much more wisdom to give, and our Referrals podcast audience needs to hear it. But you know what? We try to keep these to 60 minutes so people can do their walk or their 60-minute workout or whatever it may be, and then get back to doing whatever they were implementing what they learned from the Referrals podcast. So Alexis, I'll tell you what, I love you. I love you dearly. I've known you for quite some time now. And I meant every word I said during this podcast about your wisdom, your mastery, your referability, your character, your integrity, your competence, your confidence, your comfort, your communication. You're the queen of scripts, all of that. It's you're a blessing, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. He lied about everything he said, but at my age, I'll take anything I can get. I appreciate being here, Michael, and I'd love to share more with you and your audience. Anytime you need me, you just let me know. Will do.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the incomparable Alexis Bolin, straight from Pensacola, Florida. And remember, everybody, we have the Smart Restart Summit coming up It's literally just a couple of weeks away. Where would you like to do a year's worth of business in 6 months easily without any money out of your pocket? And guess what? It's easy to do. I will tell you, we are sharing at the Smart Restart Summit on July 23rd. It is you got to be on the broadcast to get the information. We have Kevin Harrington, Shark Tank Shark, is going to be on that day. We have Josh Frazee, who he just did 33 transactions in the last 25 days during the COVID times, during quarantine, and their state has quarantine. And he still did 33 pendings in 25 days, all by referral. So we're going to share those stories and more. Go to GenGen 2020. That's GEN 2020.com to register now. We do have very limited seating for that, but we would love to have you at the Smart Restart Summit. We need a redo button or a restart button or a reset button. Guess what? The Smart Restart Summit, we're going to show you how to restart 2020 and make it your best year ever. Could you imagine if 2020 ended up your best year ever after everything that's gone on? We're hoping to make that happen. The Smart Restart Summit, GenGen 2020, GEN 2020.com. And Alexis, one last thing. I love you. Thank you so much for being on, and you blessed our audience today with a ton of nuggets and a ton of pearls. Thank you.
My pleasure, Michael.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time on Referrals Podcast. Check out referralspodcast.com for great downloads and even more. We'll see you then.